Okay.
Okay. Are we on?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. The last time we were together, which was several weeks ago, at the very end of the meeting, I introduced and read Honin Myosho, correct? And you guys all have copies of that, correct?
Yep.
I sent it out on
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Have any of you reread it or studied it or chanted about it? Honestly, I won't be shocked if you haven't. Have you?
After that, no.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's a little bit of an esoteric, very poetic, but very deep and very dense explanation of reality, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's the reality that the Daishonin describes at the end of his life. And my plan had been to continue on with my work on that, to finish it up, starting at least with this meeting, then going forward. But I got hung up again as far as being able to get the material in the shape that I need it to be in order to read it again. So if you can do that each time you see that go dark, that'd be great. So the bottom line is that the key to that Gosho is the simultaneity of cause and effect. Okay? The Honmatsu Kyoto, the consistency from beginning to end. We've got to, what I'm going to be starting to do from this Gosho and everything else that I do, including finishing off Honin Myosho, all right, is going to be emphasizing an encouragement for individuals to begin to manifest a perspective that is actually being inside of Honmatsu Kyoto. Okay, in other words, perceiving this oneness of all things, this simultaneity of all things. And if we contemplate it, see again, as human beings, we think of everything in a linear fashion, right? Something happens, and then each moment goes by. Past becomes, future becomes the present, and then becomes the past. And even though we know they're connected and they're inseparable, we don't really think of them as inseparable. Okay, we don't perceive them in an individual moment as okay. So I mean, when we're in front of the Gohonzon, that is the time when we really are manifesting our Buddha nature. Okay?
Yeah.
And that is the time when we should try to perceive everything as it actually is, rather than dumbing out and numbing out and just chanting Daimoku to the Gohonzon. And even though we know it's the basis of our lives, we still kind of view it as something outside of ourselves. And so this whole point is to discuss today a little bit about issues that pertain to the simultaneity of cause and effect before we get into the Gosho. Now, in order to make sure that we can write down that we wrote this was the Gosho for this video, I am going to start out by going to the background and read the background. So at least we got started on this with the background. And then I'm going to go to the orally transmitted teachings and read a couple of things that are pertinent. And then I'm going to go into a whole bunch of realities in terms of terms that we know and that we we know how to express them as far as our practice is concerned, or even sometimes how we perceive them already in our lives. But again, you got to understand, when you perceive it in your life, then you're inside Honmatsu Kyoto. Your Buddha nature is what's allowing you to perceive it that way. Okay? But if we don't understand that that's really the Buddha perspective of things, we can't really bring forth the wisdom to accept that and then expand upon that. Okay? Are you with me?
Yeah.
All right. So this is like an expansive process to help people get rid of the latter, because, when we think about the 10 worlds, we think about hell, hunger, animality, anger, blah, 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 all the way to Buddhahood, right?
Yeah.
But it's almost like a ladder. Like we go up to each one as a state. No, they're all the same in the same moment.
Right.
Everything is in the same moment. Okay, the 10 factors. even though it says consistency from beginning to end in Honmaku Kyoto, right? We think about it starting with form and ending with Honmaku Kyoto, okay? When we think of the three realms, we don't think of that all being simultaneous, the environment and the realm of the persons. So, you know, the whole thing about Ichinen Sanzen, the whole thing about everything, the onennesses, the 10 onennesses that Myolo brings out, our relationship with the law. I mean, we have the oneness of person and law. Is that strictly just Nichiren? No, it's all of us too. We're all Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, thus come ones. But we don't perceive ourselves that way because we look at our life in a linear fashion. And we've got to get rid of those ladders.
Yeah.
Okay? And if we want to really encourage people to understand correctly what the teaching is saying, then we have to help them understand how to get rid of the ladders. Don't be frightened by it, but accept it and understand it as the truth and utilize that from a perspective of wisdom. Okay? To be able to guide not only our own lives, but to help guide the lives of others and introduce them to a correct manner of thinking as it relates to this Buddhism. All right? So, I'm going to start then by reading the background right now on page 790. And I guess before I do that, I'm going to read something first from a wonderful friend named Leah. And Leah, I want you to know that I have marked here, the last thing that I have marked in here is to read sometime during the Chinese New Year or during the spring, whatever we call that, spring holiday or the...
Winter vacation.
Yeah, whatever. The bottom line is, I've already got it marked here on persecutions befalling the sage. Now, I looked back and we do not have that on video, but we have studied this because I've got it all marked up with Koshikawa little comment, little segments. You know, there's like 8 chapters in this single teaching. So, Leah, I will be reading that sometime in the next 2 weeks. Not in a group because they're all going to be gone and everybody's going to be enjoying their spring break or their Chinese New Year, however they want to view it. But Leah wrote to me, and it just got this last night, but I thought it was pretty cool that it just happened last night. It says, "Hi Tom, Leah again. I must tell you over and over how much I appreciate your study videos." So it's very comforting to know that the effort that I make goes beyond just those of us at this table who are all good friends, and actually I really enjoy seeing you guys. And I appreciate that you come over and you've been so consistent for so many years. But the fact that we're able to share this relationship with other people is about to expand, because I've got great news for you. You know, YouTube wants to kind of work with us, okay? And they've offered to do transcriptions of all of our videos, transform them into any language we want, and connect all of us together from all over the world, okay? So that we created like a digital Sangha. It's basically SGIP. Actually, somehow, miraculously coming into being with the assistance of YouTube to do all kinds of special things that they can do. Like they can link certain points in a particular video in terms of comments, you know, where link it straight into the Buddhist dictionary or straight into some sort of a link to a SGI video or comment from Daisaku Ikeda or whatever. So, Leah continues. Hang on. I says, okay, she said, thank you very much. She says, I don't know how you will do, I don't know if you will do any more videos. Yes, but I may do less. And as time goes on, I may stop at some point because I am 72 and I'm getting older. And, you know, but there are also solutions to that. Maybe I'll just make an AI of myself and, you know, I'll just be able to, you know, sit here and have my hand keep going like this while I keep talking so that it looks real, you know. So we don't know how the future, what the future holds. He says, but she says, I don't know if you will do any more videos. You don't have to use my name, but you can use my example anytime. So I'm going to use your example right now, girl. It says, I have been looking for the straight, no chaser understanding of, number one, who I am. You provide that so passionately and affirmatively over and over. I am Buddha, and with all the strength and power and good fortune therein. Everyone is not ready for your delivery. And I understand that. That's why I don't ask people necessarily to give me likes or to do shares. But if you know people that you think would respond to what's being said in these videos, you most certainly need to do that, please. And I think that the issue with working directly with the YouTube will help facilitate that. All right? So it says, not everyone is not ready for your video, so they miss out. They miss out on what you're really saying, and I understand that. But again, Leah, if you understand it, I know all my friends around the table understand it after going on 20 years. It's something I'm very comfortable to discuss, and I'm fearless as far as doing that discussion. So I'm not worried about anything. She says, I recognize some things I am fine-tuning and would like to get your confirmation or adjustments as needed in my understanding. Number one, perception is the key. Yes, it is. How you perceive things, that's exactly what I was talking about, the perception of being inside Honmatsu Kukyo-to and perceiving the reality of the simultaneity that occurs around us in every moment of our life. Okay, but we never think of it as a simultaneity actually occurring. She says, and would like to get your confirmation or adjustments as needed in my understanding. Perception is key. To perceive seems easy, but requires daimoku for correct practice, whether that is perceiving bullshit, or the Buddhism in self and others. I may have downplayed it. No, you haven't. That perception has got to be something that's constantly engaged, and it comes from a conscious desire for that to be the case. All right? That's really your Buddha nature growing and becoming who you are as a Buddha in your present form. All right? It's part of, it's been going on since you first heard Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Okay? Ever since you started practicing, you've been inside Honmatsu Kukyo-to, but you've never realized it. Sometimes you step out when you start seeing things from the outside and looking at them as separate from you. But when you're realizing that you're part of this process that's all connected, that's being inside, and that's a part of perception, and that's what you should be striving for when you're chanting Daimoku, if you're trying to manifest wisdom. Yeah. Okay? So it says, or the Buddha in self and others. I may have downplayed it. You can't downplay that. That's the most important thing to understand. That's the most important thing to understand. Okay, so 2, judging, observing and judging. Nichiren seemed like he perceived with his wisdom, then observed, and then questioned. In his host with questioner dialogues, which this Gosho is going to be one of those, but a lot of times he asked, he made the person being asked say, yeah, I'm a dumbass, judging themselves. And of course, what he's doing now is he's talking to himself for the sake of creating a dialogue in reality. These are not conversations that I think he sat down and somebody recorded the back and forth. But the point is, yes, in his questions, quite often he's setting up his answer, because he knows his answer is something that is not understood broadly, okay? And he's in a constant process of trying to make that understanding accessible to people regardless of their capability to perceive, okay? So that's why there's a difference between the Goshos that he writes to Sairinbo and the difference between the Goshos that he writes to Toki Jonin or something like that, okay? So she says, Or is it just me? What's your take on this? Well, I just expressed my take on that. Yes, he is setting himself up for the answer that he's going to give. I'm trying to practice asking more questions of members and guests, leaders. I do come from a judgment and WTF paradigm, family, relationships, work. I want to make sure I am not judgmental and use my other Buddha capabilities. Well, again, so long as you perceive yourself not being separate from them and understand that everything that you're experiencing is a reflection of the karma that you've made, okay, and by deliberately creating that appropriate karma, you are now in a circumstance where other people are doing things that are manifesting your karmic reflection, because you're the only one that receives it the way you receive it. You know, there's going to be a whole group conversation and everybody else is receiving everything that's being said based on their own mind, okay, which is a reflection of their karma. So yes, she says, I want to make sure I am not judgmental and use my other Buddha capabilities. Well, we shouldn't be judgmental other than being receptive and compassionate towards the fact that not everybody has the same capacity. Okay? So there are times when you have to say things in a little bit different way than you might otherwise express it for the sake of the person that you're speaking to. And then 3, karma, obstacles, lots of them, and that's okay. Well, good, because if you are the Buddha, then you know you're going to get them. I have big time fear karma. Okay, we all do. That's why we chant Daimoku to the Gohonzon. Okay, we all anticipate, things that are going to make us uncomfortable or going to be difficult, or things that have to be overcome as challenges. Okay, and we don't always have a sense of bravery to be able to face those in the moment that we get hit with them with a sense of, no problem, I got this covered. Depends on your life condition, right? Yeah. Well, what is life condition based on? It's really based on your rejuvenation of your Buddha nature through your relationship with the Gohonzon on a daily basis. Don't chant for 2 weeks and see if you still have the same state of mind. You will not. It'll diminish. Okay? That's why consistency from beginning to end, consistency on a moment-to-moment basis is what that is actually saying, is so important. I have big-time fear karma. Is it comfort and ease because our identity as Buddha, along with the implementing chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, we have every bit of everything we need to defeat the devil ASAP? Yes. In other words, the reason we should always be confident is because we are Buddhists and nothing can defeat us. If we have a relationship with the Gohonzon, everything that we face as a difficulty is something to be overcome and to show actual proof of the power of the law with. Okay? Now that's not going to make any of us immortal. Okay? We're all going to face death. There are going to be difficulties that relate to our personal demise. But in our everyday life, there's nothing that we can't turn poison into medicine over. Ever. That's the whole point of realizing you're the Buddha, is to be able to have that confidence. Okay? And that perspective. And so she says, along with implementing chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, we have every bit of everything we need to defeat the devil ASAP. Yes. By the way, I have never consciously and verbally to myself said, devilish functions, move out of the way, I will defeat you, not the other way around, until I started studying with you. And so I do this constantly. And where did I get it from? Where do I get the way I talk, the way I express myself, everything I emulate Nichiren Daishonin from reading his writings. Okay? And the Daishonin certainly did call out to the protective influences. He talks about them. Okay? They're on the Gohonzon for a reason. You are actually communicating with those aspects of your own life. They're not entities outside of your life. They're aspects of your karmic makeup that allow you to bring them forth from your life by acknowledging that they exist. That's what your strength is all based on, is the full confidence that those protective influences are there and you can call on them and they will manifest in a fashion that's demonstrable. That's called actual proof. And that's the reason we're able to turn poison into medicine. Okay? So she says, I love the cursing too. I do too. So, Lal, have a great day. You are amazing. Thank you, Leah, so much. I appreciate it. And we will be reading the Gosho on persecution befalling the sage. And next, okay, so now we're going to go to the background. I know this is a little mixed up. I told you there was going to be some spaghetti here. All right, the background starts on page 790. This work is one of Nichiren Daishonin's 10 major writings. It is thought to have been written on the 10th day of the 4th month of the 3rd year of Kinji. In the previous month, Toki Jonin, one of the Daishonin's most learned and devout disciples, says, who am I thinking about? Was it Toki Jonin? Who's the one that carried his mom's ashes up? Who?
No, let's just say what pages.
Okay, page 790. Okay, I'll think of him in a minute. Most learned and devout disciples had sent him a letter via Nisho, one of the 6 senior priests. Toki had expressed concern about how he might carry out a correct practice and appended a list of specific questions. This work is the Daishonin's reply. In it, he stresses that chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo with faith in the mystic law is the correct practice for the latter day of the law and contains the merit of all other practices within it, leading directly to Buddhahood. In the opening section, the Daishonin takes issue with those of his contemporaries who hold that practitioners of the Lotus Sutra must devote themselves to the 3 types of learning: precepts, meditation, and wisdom. And we don't do that, right?
No.
Because they're all contained within our practice to the Gohonzon. These 3 were traditionally said to encompass the whole of Buddha's practice. And they are. And we're still doing them by embracing the Gohonzon. The Daishonin begins his explanation by describing the 4 stages of faith and the 5 stages of practice enumerated by the great teacher Tentai on the basis of the distinction and benefits chapter of Lotus Sutra, which is chapter 17, right after chapter 16, right? Okay, and don't forget, this is pertaining to then the teaching for the middle day of the law, because the Lotus Sutra had been the teaching for that, from that perspective, from chapter 17 for the first 1,000 years, and now for the second 1,000 years, Tentai is going to break it all down, and then he's going to culminate in the Makashikan, okay? And then he says, enumerated by the great teacher Tentai on the basis of distinctions and benefits chapter of Lotus Sutra. The first stage of faith, that of producing even a single moment of belief and understanding, and the first stage of practice, that of rejoicing or hearing the Lotus Sutra, correspond to the state of practitioners in the latter day of the law. That's where he gets the 6 stages of practice that we read about here in the orally transmitted teachings. Among various interpretations of these initial stages set forth from in the recorded teachings of Tentai and Myolo, he designated as most appropriate the view that they correspond to the stage of hearing the name and the words of the truth, which we correspond to the second, right? Okay, the stage where one first hears and takes faith in the Lotus Sutra. For us, that would be when one first hears Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and takes faith in it, right? For people at these initial stages, the Daishonin continues, of the 3 types of learning, the Buddha restricted the practice of precepts and meditation. So you're not supposed to start out by getting into all the heavy stuff. You're supposed to first just chant Daimoku to the Gohonzon and develop faith. All right? Emphasizing only wisdom. And because the wisdom of people in the latter day is inadequate, they should substitute faith. So we substitute faith for wisdom. That's why we chant every day. Faith in the Lotus Sutra becomes the cause for acquiring the Buddha wisdom. The Daishonin then criticized Eshijin's Essentials for the Rebirth in the Pure Land. Obviously, that's an Nembutsu thing, a work that he had greatly encouraged Nembutsu practices in Japan. Pure Land adherents generally held that the Lotus Sutra was too profound for the limited capacities of people born in the latter day, and it is somewhat. That's why we now chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, emphasizing instead the easy practice of reciting Amida Buddha's name. The Daishonin replies that the higher the teaching, the lower the capacity of the people it can save. Thus, chanting the Daimoku, or title of the Lotus Sutra, alone can bring all beings to Buddhahood. The next part explains that, on the top of the second column, page 791, the next part explains that people in the latter day who are at the initial stages of practice need not practice almsgiving, the keeping of precepts, or any of the other 5 paramitas, but should devote themselves exclusively to chanting the Daimoku. It may be noted here that the Daishonin is not rejecting the spirit implicit in such acts as almsgiving, but rather is denying their efficacy as actual practices. So to just give things to the temple isn't practicing. That makes sense, right? Just giving a priest some money isn't really your practice. That should be an outflow in some fashion of an act of appreciation. It may be noted here that Daishonin is not rejecting the spirit implicit in such acts as almsgiving, but rather is denying their efficacy as actual practices, what will take you to Buddhahood. The merit of all these good deeds, he says, is already inherent in the Daimoku. That's why we don't have to do them. The practice of Daimoku contains all practices within itself. The Daishonin asserts that even those who chant it without understanding its meaning are certain to attain Buddhahood. Okay, so I'm going to just put this aside here for just a second. And I'm going to go to the orally transmitted teachings, and I'm going to go first to the Treasure Tower chapter that qualifies the fact that you are already all Buddhists. Okay? It's point 13. This is something that everybody should have ingrained in their head. Point 13 on the passage, for the sake of the Buddha way in immeasurable numbers of lands, from the beginning until now, I have widely preached many sutras, and among them this sutra is foremost. If one can uphold this sutra, then he will be upholding the Buddha's body. The record, this is on page 96. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, Nichiren says, to uphold the Lotus Sutra is to uphold belief in the fact that our bodies are the Buddha's body. The one word soku, or then, which also means identical, indicates that living beings and the Buddha are not two different things. The first uphold in the phrase, if one can uphold this sutra, stands for ordinary mortals. The entity to be upheld is the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo. We speak of this as upholding the Buddha's body, but because each and every word of the Lotus Sutra is a golden-colored body of the Buddha, to uphold the body of the Buddha means to uphold the belief that outside of our own bodies there is no Buddha. Okay, so there's nothing outside of you that you need to pray or manifest. Okay, that's why this simultaneity is so important, because that's what connects you to everything that's preceded you, and it connects you to everything that's going to come after you. Okay, so that is the ordinary mortal at Risoku, or the stage of being a Buddha in theory, is not different from the Buddha of Kukyo-soku, or the stage of ultimate enlightenment, the 6th stage of practice in the Daishonin's 6 stages of practice. The word soku, identical, indicates the fact that the first soku, that of Risoku, and the last soku, that of Kukyo-soku, are no different from one another. Okay, and so now let's go to the 6 stages of practice that are all simultaneous. Okay, when we read these, do we read them as being simultaneous? Okay, but you'll notice that doing Shakabuku is the 5th stage. Did you wait to start doing Shakabuku? I did Shakabuku in the first 2 weeks of starting to chant. So what I'm saying, no, They're just like the 10 factors. They're all simultaneous. There's not an order. It's not a ladder. It's not a process of I got to this point. Okay, now I can get to this point. Okay, now I can reach this point. That's what's holding everybody back from realizing that they're already Buddhas, because they don't think that they qualify yet. There's nothing that makes it a qualification process. That's what I just read to you from the Daishonin. Risoku and Kukyo Soku are identical. Okay? And so I'm going to go through here and reinforce it again before I get into the rest of the stuff. It's going to be redundant to you guys to a great degree, but it won't be redundant to the people that are going to be watching on video. But it might not be a bad idea for you to all hear it one more time. Okay? So it starts here, actually. Or more specifically, he's talking about the three bodies. Or more specifically, it refers to the body, to the Buddha of the original state who is eternally endowed with the three bodies. Now, who is that? Everybody that chants Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and that is a disciple of Nichiren. All right? Okay, so that's all of us.
Yeah.
All right? Click. Simultaneity. All right? That simultaneity pervades on the basis of our faith. It's simultaneous. We know what now went just from Risoku to Kukyo Soku. Instantaneously. We've planted our own seed. Our seed has been planted. We're now on the path. Nothing can stop it. Okay? And he goes, now it is the understanding of Nichiren and his followers that, and what he's really saying, now it is my understanding, and everybody that calls themselves my disciple should understand this to believe it as I understand it. Okay? This is faith, right? Thank you, sir. Please speak up so this microphone can catch what you're saying. Okay? Now it is the understanding of Nichiren and his followers that, generally speaking, the term thus come one refers to all living beings. So nobody's excluded from this process. All right? It is karmic, but no one's excluded. Everybody has the potential. Right. More specifically, it refers, because he's again qualifying, more specifically, it refers to the disciples and lay supporters of Nichiren because they've been tuned into this fact. Because as disciples, they have faith in his teaching, right?
Yes.
Okay, this being the case, then, the term eternally endowed with the three bodies refers to the votaries of the Lotus Sutra in the latter day of the law. Who is that? Us. So all of us are eternally endowed with the three bodies. What are the three bodies?
Dharma body, manifest body.
The manifest body, the reward body, and the Dharma body, right? The manifest body and the reward body get us to perceive the Dharma body. Then once we perceive the Dharma body then allows us to have wisdom and emancipation. Okay? That's the way that actually works. Once we get to the Dharma body, we don't need the reward body anymore. Everything in the reward body is in the Dharma body. The mind that perceives everything to be equally endowed with Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. That's what that actually is. That's the Dharma body. The Dharma body is what allows you to see no separation between anything. That's when you quit making distinctions. That's when you are of the same mind as Nichiren. That's Nichiren's perspective. Okay? Okay, so then, the title of honor for one who is eternally endowed with the three bodies, all of us, okay? What is that title of honor? It's Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. We're not just thus come ones. We're not just at your average Buddha. We're not a Buddha of the theoretical teaching or of Shakyamuni's teachings, or Tentai's teachings. We're Buddhas of Nichiren's teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. We are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come ones. We live in the latter day of the law. This is when we manifest. That's what makes us different from the Buddhas that have preceded us. Okay? All right? This is what the three great concerns of actuality of the lifespan chapter refer to. What are the three great concerns of actuality? What we do in front of the Butsudan every day. indicates the three great secret laws of Nichiren's teaching. That is the object of devotion, the Gohonzon, the invocation, the Daimoku, and of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, and the sanctuary, the Kaidan. But at a point, our life becomes the Kaidan, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking in terms of the 6 stages of practice, the thus come one in this chapter is an ordinary mortal who is at the first stage, that of being a Buddha in theory, but that's really not a function of practice. That's a function of potential. That's why this thing, Tentai doesn't mention it as a stage of practice. That's why there's 5 stages of practice. Okay? When one reverently accepts Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, one is in the next stage, that of hearing the names of the truth, which is the second stage of the 6 stages, but is the first stage of Tentai's teaching. Okay? That is, one has for the first time heard the Daimoku. When having heard the Daimoku, one proceeds to put it into practice. This is the third stage, that of perception and action. So there's a separation here between the reverence toward the perception and action issue and hearing the name and the words of the truth. This one starts with hearing it and feeling even a moment of joy, right? Just hearing the name and the words of the truth is 2. And for us, perception and action, having getting the gist of things, having a desire to know more, chanting Daimoku is 3. It's separated, right? It's different. It's unique for the latter day of the law and Nam-myoho Renge-kyo versus the Maka Shikan. Don't forget, this is all based on seated meditation that you're able to ascertain these ideas. Okay? That hearing the name of the truth. That is okay. That is for the one has for the first time heard the Daimoku. When one having heard the Daimoku, one proceeds to put it into practice. This is the third stage, that of perception and action. Pardon me for the repeat. In this stage, one perceives the object of devotion that embodies the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. So it's gone beyond just Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Now you're connected to the Gohonzon, right? When one succeeds in overcoming various obstacles of illusions, this is the 4th stage, that of resemblance to enlightenment. Why? Because you're doing all the things that a Buddha does. All right? When one sets out to convert others, this is the 5th stage, that of progressive awakening. That's doing shakobuku. That's sharing, the truth of the Gohonzon with other people, right?
Yep.
Okay. And when one comes at last to the realization that one is a Buddha eternally endowed with the 3 bodies, then one is a Buddha of the 6th and highest stage, that of ultimate enlightenment. So what makes you a Buddha?
Faith. Still faith.
Faith what? Faith in what?
Faith in chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and belief
to believe that you are a Buddha, to believe Nichiren's teaching right here, where he just delineated, when at last you finally come to the realization, I've been saying it over and over and over again, but you don't think it applies to you, but it's applied to you since the very moment you said Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. And that's why all of this is simultaneous. There's not a ladder for you to climb. You're the one that determines that you're delaying this process, okay? It's your lack of diligence in seeking the truth from the Gohonzon. This only comes from chanting Daimoku in trying to achieve Kyochi Myogo. You are not chanting for a benefit or to overcome a problem. You're chanting to attain Buddhahood. That's when that realization comes out of your life, okay? Fact. It's all faith. This is all faith, because you're going to go through some shit that's going to discourage you or to try and become an obstacle. That's called fundamental darkness. Who creates fundamental darkness? What is fundamental darkness? It's you, right? So, we're all fundamentally dark and we're all fundamentally enlightened, okay? We choose which side of the coin we're going to have it flipped to.
Yes, right.
That's all it is, all right? That 6th stage, that's the highest stage of ultimate enlightenment. That is now the Dharma body has manifest itself. Okay, now we have Buddha wisdom. Because we're a Buddha, we have Buddha wisdom. And because we have Buddha wisdom, we have emancipation. We're free as a bird. Nothing can frighten us. Nothing scares us. Nothing is too difficult for us. And we have compassion for all others that have not yet been able to perceive that reality of their own life. Okay? That makes us the Buddha. We do the Buddha's work. Okay? That's the Buddha of limitless joy. That's being the Buddha of limitless joy. And then he qualifies again, speaking of the chapter as a whole, the idea of gradually overcoming illusions is not the ultimate meaning of the lifespan chapter. That again is reinforcing this simultaneity process. This isn't a ladder. This isn't like I got to here, then I got to here, then I got to here. This is like, how fast can you go? It's up to you. You'll go that fast. You should understand that the ultimate meaning of this chapter is that ordinary mortals, Risoku, just as they are in their original state of being, are eternally endowed with the three bodies, are Buddhas. Okay, and if you ask what is the action or practice carried out by the Buddha eternally endowed with the three bodies, it is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which is what we do, right? Okay, now let me get into a bunch of fun simultaneity, the oneness of person and law. I have to push this in because this isn't part of Myolo's 10 onennesses, because it's something that was established by Nichikan, because it can only be after Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and Nichiren's advent that you could have this perception of the oneness of person and the law. Because the law prior to Nam-myoho Renge-kyo had no name. It had no identity. It was referred to in a almost mysterious, mystic manner in the Lotus Sutra. The law, the teacher of the law. It never qualifies what the law is, though. Right? Okay, so a principle established by Nichikan, the 26th chief priest of Taiseikai Temple in Japan, with regard to Nichiren's teaching, indicating that the object of devotion in terms of the person and the object of devotion in terms of the law are one in their essence. Now he's going to qualify this to be that Nichiren is the one that's got the oneness of the person and the law, but the orally transmitted teaching qualifies to us that there's nothing about him that doesn't apply to us, right? Now Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, all of those that are of the same mind as Nichiren, identical, Kukyo Soku, okay, identical. So that we are identical, whether or not Nichikan brings that point out or not, okay? Indicating that the object of devotion in terms of the person, the object of devotion in terms of the law are one in their essence, which means they're identical. The law is inseparable from the person and vice versa. And in the Treasure Tower 11th chapter Lotus Sutra, it states, if one upholds this sutra, one will be upholding the Buddha's body. That's what he just quoted in point 13. This means that the Lotus Sutra is the Buddha's body. And that is the Buddha person, and the teaching law that he expounded are one and inseparable. Nichiren revealed and spread the law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and inscribed it in the form of a mandala known as the Gohonzon, to enable all people in the latter day of the law to attain Buddhahood. For this reason, he is regarded as the Buddha of the latter day of the law. But so are we. If we're all his disciples and identical to him, and we all are eternally endowed with the three bodies, then we eternally also are Buddhas. Okay? We didn't just pick these up off the side of the road, these three bodies. They are our inherent original state. Okay? That's why Kuan, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, is the original state. We are all manifestations of Kuan. Everything is. Everything is a manifestation of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. All right? This is the object of devotion in terms of the law, or the physical embodiment of the eternal and intrinsic law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo that Nichiren realized and manifested within his own life. Hence, Nichiren is the object of devotion in terms of the person. In his reply to Kyo-o, Nichiren writes, the soul of Nichiren is nothing other than Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. This means that Nichiren realized Nam-myoho Renge-kyo as the origin and basis of his life and embodied it as a mandala. And when we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, we take on that same aspect of clarity, that it is also the basis of our own life. That's how we, the real Gohonzon is our life itself. This is synonymous. This is simultaneity with this concept. All right. Nichiren also writes in the same reply, I, Nichiren, have inscribed my life in Sumi ink, so believe in it. Believe in the Gohonzon with your whole heart. We should believe in this Gohonzon as it being the clear mirror by which we see our Buddha nature that actually exists. It's not theoretical. Okay? And that's why we achieve actual Ichinen Sanzen and not theoretical Ichinen Sanzen. We achieve Buddhahood in our present form. Ultimately, Nichiren's life embodied the principle of oneness in the person, and the oneness of the person in the law, as does the Gohonzon, the object of devotion he established. And if we're one with the Gohonzon, so do we. Okay, so I go on to the next one now. Non-substantiality. Let's talk about non-substantiality. A fundamental Buddhist concept, also translated as emptiness, void, latency, or relativity. The Sanskrit root shunya, shunyata, which I would have read further in this if I would have read this whole thing that I told you a minute ago. It is it also means empty or empty of. It is the concept that things and phenomena have no fixed or independent nature or existence of their own. Non-substantiality is neither negative nor world negating, but teaches the importance of perceiving the true nature of phenomena, the fact that we don't come back as the same person that we were in a previous existence because we've added and subtracted to the karma that is inherent in our karmic storage. Okay. And the consistency from beginning to end will reflect that in our next life. Okay, the Honmatsu Kyoto is going to be there every time, over and over and over again. What you do is what you get. Okay, the importance of perceiving the true nature of phenomena, the true nature of phenomena being Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which are on the surface transient. It's always changing, moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. Everything in the entire phenomenal realm is changing. The Wisdom Sutras developed the Mahayana concept of non-substantiality, and Nagarjuna systemized it based on them. The concept originated in connection to those of dependent origination and of the non-existence of self-nature. The non-existence of self-nature. What's that mean? The non-existence of thinking that you're always you. That there's a special you that keeps coming back as you. Everything about you changes. You're a temporary gathering of the 5 components. Each one of those components is going to reconform itself based on the karma, the karmic formula you created through your own actions, through your actions of the mind, your mouth, and your body. Okay, so when you come out, there's no way for you to be identical to who you were when you lived in your previous existence. Hopefully you come out as an advanced state of who you had been in your previous existence. Now, if you're a real badass, you say, blow that good fortune off, bring me back into the muck so I can save people. Okay, if you're really brave. Depends on your dedication. It's the concept originated in connection to those of dependent origination and of non-existence or of self-nature. Dependent origination means that because phenomena arise only by virtue of their relationship with other phenomena, they have no distinct nature or existence of their own. Non-existence or self-nature means that there is no independent entity that exists alone apart from other phenomena. That's the whole thing of the 3 realms, the person and the persons, right? The common message is that the true nature of all phenomena is non-substantiality, going into Ku, okay? And that it cannot be defined in terms of concept of existence or non-existence, because even when you go to Ku and you're no longer a temporary gathering of 5 components, your karmic influence still exists. It still remanifests. 5 components get stuck back together and you reemerge from non-substantiality into the phenomenal realm, right? Okay, so that's why it's neither existence nor non-existence. It's somewhere in between. That's the whole point of the truth of the middle way. The common message is that the true nature of all phenomena is non-substantiality and that it cannot be defined in terms of the concepts of existence or non-existence. Nagarjuna explained it as the middle way, a perspective that regards the categories of existence and non-existence as extremes and aims to transcend them. The practical purpose behind the teaching of non-substantiality lies in eliminating attachments to transient phenomena. I love that tree so much, but that tree isn't going to be there for eternity. Okay? The teaching of non-substantiality lies in eliminating attachments to transient phenomena and to the ego, or that sense of self. I am unique. I am me. I will be a reincarnation of me. No, you're going to be transmigration of you, or the perception of self as an independent and fixed identity. Independent and fixed identity. We are neither one of those. We are neither independent because we're dependent upon all the other things that make us manifest when we manifest and surround us and create the environment that we're in. And we're not fixed because we're a reformation of the 5 components, right? Everybody's with me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all of that is simultaneous. Kuan Ganjo, literally Kuan means the remote past and Ganjo, beginning or foundation. This term appears on the mystic on the mystic principle of true cause, what I just did, and that I'm working on right now. A work written by Nichiren in 1282 before he died. This is the last thing that he did. This work refers to the mystic law, uncreated and eternal, of the Buddha of beginningless time, Kuan Ganjo, and states the mystic law lies in the depths of the lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra. It's Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Nichiren interprets Kuan Ganjo on 2 different levels. One, in the context of the lifespan chapter, Kuan refers to the remote past when Shakyamuni originally attained enlightenment, and Ganjo to the foundation of his original enlightenment, the remote past. Numberless major world system, dust particle corpus, to be in keeping with the Lotus Sutra's text. But in the record of the orally transmitted teachings, too, Nichiren's oral teachings on the Lotus Sutra compiled by Nikko in 1278, it is stated, Kuan means something that was not worked for, that was not approved upon, so it was not something that was acquired by practicing the Bodhisattva way. It's the original state of existence. It's beginningless time. Kuan means something that was not worked for, that was not improved upon, but that exists just as it always has. Orally transmitted teachings continues. Because we are speaking here of the Buddha eternally endowed with the 3 bodies, that's all of us. It is not a question of something attained for at the first time at a certain time. We're all eternally 3-bodied Buddhas, right? Or something that was worked for. We don't have this issue of, when originally I practiced the Bodhisattva way. Our original state is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. This is not the kind of Buddhahood that is adorned with the 32 features and 80 characteristics. We don't bring up treasure towers that are 1/3 the size of the earth or do spooky, weird shit. We're common mortals that reveal our original state of Buddhahood, or that needs to be improved on in any way, because you don't need to be improved upon in any way to become the Buddha if you'll just realize that is actually who you are. Because this is the eternal and immutable Buddha in his original state, he exists just as he always has, as a Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come one, nothing more, nothing less. This is what is meant by Kuan. The same section of the orally transmitted teachings concludes, Kuan is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. And true attainment means awakening to the fact that one is eternally endowed with the 3 bodies, which means having faith in chapter 16, what I just read. In essence, for Nichiren, Kuan or Kuan Ganjo means the eternal law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. It's not a dude, and it's not separate from anything. and the original state of, it says, okay, in essence, for Nichiren, Kuon or Kuon Ganjo means the eternal law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and the original state of life that embodies Buddhahood. All right, going on to the next one. Are you guys, am I boring you to death?
No.
Are you sure? Okay, 10 onenesses. Who can tell me what the 10 onenesses are? Who formulated the 10 onenesses?
师不二门，
天文
Myolo. Okay, so they're formulated on the teachings of Tiantai, but they were never put down as separate identifications by Chang'an. What are you reading? Oh, the Chinese. Yeah, the Chinese. What's it say? Jipunimu. Okay. Also 10 dualities. Now, if it's a duality, it's a simultaneous reality. 10 principles set forth by Myolo in annotations on the profound meaning of the Lotus Sutra. In this work, Myolo discusses the 10 mystic principles of the theoretical first half of the Lotus Sutra and the 10 mystic principles of the essential teaching, the latter half of the sutra, which Tiantai expounded in the profound meaning of the Lotus Sutra and reveals the 10 onenesses. The section of Myolo's work that explains this principle later became an independent work called the 10 Onenesses. In it, Myolo states that the concept of 10 onenesses includes the 10 mystic principles of both the theoretical and the essential teachings. The 10 onenesses are as follows. 1, the oneness of body and mind that Daishonin said a million times. Outside of our own body and mind, there is no Buddha. Okay, you can't have a body without a mind. You can't have a mind without a body. They're in a state of simultaneity.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, they're two but not two. All of these things are two but not two. Okay, but it's all honmatsu kukyo to. That's the point I'm trying to make until I bore you to death. I'm going to bore you to death. Wait, I'm going to keep beating this horse until it whinnies. Okay. In it, Myolo states that the concept, the oneness of body and mind, what one observes in meditation in one mind or one thought moment, ichinen, which is indivisible, is an indivisible whole of body and mind, an indivisible whole of body and mind. So in other words, our life actually exists in fragments of 5 components being together, and our body and mind allowing us to perceive the truth of that ichinen, that single moment of life. Okay? And it's like a movie. It's a bunch of frames. And according to physics, all those frames are still alive. Light is still carrying all of that activity. It's somewhere in the universe to be viewed. That's why past and present exist at this moment, past and future and present and past still exist, always exist. Future constantly becomes present, and present constantly becomes past, but it's all combined. I got the whole physics of it right here. I checked myself out. I'm not full of shit. I can prove it in modern physics. Okay? 2, the oneness of internal and external. Though the object of meditation is divided into 2, the internal object in the realm of the one mind, a psychosomatic entity, and the external object, or the eternal world, the external world of physical and spiritual phenomena. What's he talking about there? He's talking about, really, in our circumstance, he's talking about our mind and the Gohonzon. Okay? An external object, the Gohonzon, okay? A psychosomatic entity, our mind, okay? These two are non-dual because one mind embodies the 3 truths. What is the 3 truths? Non-substantiality, temporary existence, and the truth in the middle way. We understand that we're neither existence nor non-existence. We're a little bit of both, right? Okay, and includes all 3,000 realms. This is what allows us to actually establish actual Ichinen Sanzen in our lives. This principle. This is the basis of it. All right? Otherwise, it would be theoretical. But this oneness that Myoho brings out is the basis of Nichiren qualifying the actual Ichinen Sanzen of inclusion of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. The oneness of three, the oneness of the result of practice and the true nature of life. This means that the true nature of life, or the true aspect of all phenomena, is no different from what one ultimately attains through Buddhist practice. The true nature moves one to practice, and practice enables one to manifest the true nature. Do you understand what that is? That's Risu Soku becoming Kukyo Soku, from going from a common mortal to an enlightened one. The true nature moves one to practice, and practice enables one to manifest the true nature. They don't happen separately. If you don't make the action, you don't get the action. You don't get the result, right? It's cause and effect.
Yep.
The oneness, okay, the oneness of cause and effect. Cause here means ordinary people, and effect, Buddhahood. The oneness of cause and effect means that the Buddha nature inherent in the ordinary person is the same as the Buddha nature that the Buddha has manifested. 5. The oneness of the impure and the pure. So they're simultaneous. They're simultaneous. Again, we can sit in front of the Gohonzon and manifest the same nature as Nichiren. That's the whole point. We can bring forth our Buddha nature eternally endowed from the eternally endowed three bodies. 5. The oneness of the impure and pure. Because ignorance or delusion and enlightenment are two expressions of the same mind and essentially one. The impure mind, shrouded in ignorance, is itself the pure mind that is enlightened. I can go from being a bad dude into a Buddha. I'm not excluded from that. My mind transforms. My transformation of mind allows for a transformation of my body and mind, my identity. All right? My karma. The 1/6, the oneness of life and its environment, both the Buddha and as a living being in the Buddha land as the environment exist in one mind and are therefore non-dual. That's why we're able to achieve Kosen Rufu. What do we do? What is Kosen Rufu? We flip the Saha world, right? What do we flip it to? The Buddha land. It becomes a Buddha land, right? So the same land goes from being the world of suffering and endurance to the Buddha land, all right? All right? The oneness of self and others. Self means the Buddha and who teaches, and others means ordinary people who are taught and enlightened. That's why, Leah, we don't cop attitudes about other people. We see everybody as equal, because they're one flip away from being just like you. All right? Self means the Buddha who teaches. That's us when we achieve that state, or anytime we're doing Shakabuku, anytime we're manifesting our Buddha nature. It doesn't see all the 10 worlds are all simultaneous. Okay? So we can be in hell and still manifest Buddhahood. All right? That's the 10 worlds that all exist in the 10 worlds. That's all simultaneity. That's all Homatsu Kyoto. All right? The oneness of self and others. Self means the Buddha who teaches, where am I? Okay, yeah, and others, ordinary people who are taught and enlightened. They are non-dual because both the Buddha and the ordinary people embody the three truths, temporary existence, non-substantiality, and the truth of the middle way, and are endowed with all 3,000 realms. In other words, both self, Buddhahood, and others, the 9 worlds, are inherent in one mind. In our one mind, we're born into the realm of the phenomenal realm of the 9 worlds, but in fact, we are Buddhas that exist in the 10 worlds, right? Okay, 8, the oneness of thought, word, and deed. The Buddha saves people through the 3 categories of action: thought, speech, and behavior. These 3 categories of the Buddha are no different from those of ordinary people because they arise from the 3,000 realms inherent in both. Moreover, these 3 exist in one mind as a psychosomatic whole, and therefore they are one. Everybody understood me, right? It's the transformative capacity of the mind, and that the body will follow. The body also transforms. The The oneness of the nine, the oneness of the provisional and the true teachings. The Buddha preaches the provisional teachings, the three vehicles, and the true teaching, the one vehicle, according to the people's capacity. You understand that, right? Voice hearers, cause awakened ones, and bodhisattvas are three stages of Buddhahood, right? Because they both spring from the Buddha's enlightened mind. However, they are non-dual. They are not separate. The voice hearers, cause awakened ones, and bodhisattvas are not separate from the Buddha. Buddha is not separate from not cause awakened, voice hearers, cause awakened ones, and bodhisattvas. That Buddha nature exists in anybody that's gone past the sixth stage, right? Though people receive different benefits according to the level, the oneness of benefits. Though people receive different benefits according to the level of Buddha's teaching that they practice, such as provisional and true, both the Buddha and the people ultimately enjoy the same benefit, such as plants in a field are all nourished equally by the same rain. All right, I'm going to keep chugging through here, guys. The three bodies. Let's get to a clarity of what's the dictionary definition of three bodies. Three kinds of body a Buddha may possess. A concept set forth in Mahayana Buddhism to organize different views of the Buddha appearing in the sutras. The three bodies are as follows. 1, the Dharma body, or the body of the law. This is the fundamental truth or law to which a Buddha is enlightened. 2, the reward body that obtained as the reward of completing the bodhisattva practices and acquiring the Buddha wisdom. Unlike the Dharma body, which is immaterial, the reward body is thought of as an actual body, like your thought process, psychosomatic kind of thing. Although one is in a transient and imperceptible, it is one that is transcendent and imperceptible to ordinary people. So what it's saying, it's coming from your brain matter, but it's a special component of thought and thinking. All right? That manifests a sense of understanding of the truth and leads you to believe and perceive the reality of the Dharma body. Okay, and then 3, the manifested body, or the physical form that a Buddha assumes in this world in order to save the people. Generally, a Buddha was held to possess one of the three bodies. In other words, the three bodies represent three different types of Buddhas: the Buddha of the Dharma body, the Buddha of the reward body, and the Buddha of the manifested body. That's old school, right? They were separate. That's the whole point. That's what makes Nichiren's combining them as a confirmed status of eternal existence unique. All right? Because he's saying they're all Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. They were all combined from the very beginning, regardless of what the teaching said prior to the latter day. All of my disciples, he qualifies. Doesn't say everybody in history. He says all of my disciples who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are the manifestations of this Buddha that is eternally endowed with the three bodies, comes out as a common mortal, has the potential to attain Buddhahood in their present lifetime, in their present form. On the basis of Lotus Sutra and the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life derived from it, Chentai maintained that the three bodies are not separate entities, but three integral aspects of a single Buddha. From this point of view, the Dharma body indicates the essential property of a Buddha, which is the truth or law to which the Buddha is enlightened. That's why the Bakashikan was going for the truth of the middle way. It couldn't go beyond that. It didn't have Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. You get it? Okay. The reward body indicates the wisdom or the spiritual property of a Buddha, which enables the Buddha to perceive the truth. That would have been the contemplative, the seated meditation in Tentai's time to try and get to the point of perceiving the threefold truth of the middle way. Okay? Okay, it is called the reward body because of Buddha's wisdom. It's not just your brain, it's the capacity of your mind to be able to perceive. Okay? It is called the reward body because of Buddha's wisdom is considered the reward derived from ceaseless effort and discipline, your karma. The manifested body indicates the compassionate actions of the physical property of a Buddha. It is the body in which a Buddha carries out compassionate actions to lead people to enlightenment. It's your physical form, or those actions themselves. In discussing the passage in the Lifespan 16th chapter of the Lotus Sutra that reads, you must listen carefully and hear that thus come one's secret in his transcendental powers. Tentai, in his words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra, interpreted secret to mean that a single Buddha possesses all three bodies and that the three bodies are all found within a single Buddha. But what does the OTT say it is? Regarding the words, one must carefully and hear thus come one's secret in his transcendental powers. The record of orally transmitted teaching says this passage supports the concept of one who is eternally endowed with the three bodies. Various interpretations on these words have been transmitted. In other words, historically, they've meant more than one thing. As for the transcendental powers, the actions that are carried out instant by instant, motion by motion, by us living beings are regarded as transcendental powers. Being alive is a transcendental power. Thus the voices of the wardens of hell punishing the offenders are all to be termed transcendental powers. He has to go all the way to hell to include all 10 worlds. The countless things of the 3,000 realms that undergo the process of birth, abiding, change, and extinction, all of them in themselves are embodiments of transcendental powers. Okay, life itself is a manifestation of transcendental powers. But in the view of Nietzsche and his followers, the realization and understanding of the concept of attainment of Buddhahood in one's present form is what is meant by the thus come one's secret and his transcendental powers. For outside of the attainment of Buddhahood, there is no secret and no transcendental powers. The eternally endowed three bodies mentioned here are gained through a single word. And that single word is faith, or to believe. That's why he qualifies that it's the people that chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyos and that are of the same mind as me. Those are the ones that were born with the eternally endowed three bodies. Therefore, the sutra says, we will believe and accept the Buddha's words, chapter 16. You should stop and consider the meaning of these two words, believe and accept. I have, and that's why I just read that. Where was I? Okay, hang on, I'm almost done. You must, okay, I just finished that one. All right, I'm almost finished, and then I'm going to do the rest of these while we're on vacation, and then when we come back in, I'll read the Gosho. Okay? That way I get all the stuff you won't have to sit through all of this. I'll finish it. The 10 worlds, okay? Are the 10 worlds simultaneous? Or are they a ladder?
No,
They're not a ladder.
No.
They're simultaneous.
Yes.
Okay? All 10 worlds are contained with all 10 worlds. I don't think I have to go into the dictionary explanation of this to make sure you're clear on that, right? Okay, we'll skip the 10 worlds. We understand, though, Honmatsu Kukyo To is the reality that all 10 worlds possess all the other 10 worlds. You don't climb up from hell and then get through animals and then get into some heavenly being and then you get to become a voice hearer or a cause awakened one or a bodhisattva.
No.
None of that bullshit. Okay? None of that bullshit. Okay, the 10 mystic principles. This is the one that I gotta finish because it ties everything in. The mystic principle, the true cause. Okay, you looking for the Chinese? It's Jumyo. Jumyo.
十妙.
Jumyo. All right? Jumyo. 10 principles set forth by Tentai in the profound meaning of Lotus Sutra, interpreting the word Myo of Myoho Renge-kyo, the title of the Lotus Sutra. And I'm going to give you the definition of Myo here before it's all over with, when you guys are on vacation. When you're enjoying your spring break, your Chinese New Year. According to Tentai, the 10 mystic principles are all implicit in the single word Myo. They're all contained within Myo. There are two categories of the 10 mystic principles. The 10 mystic principles of the theoretical teaching, we just talked about that. Myolo was talking about in the breakdown of his breakdown of the 10 mystic, the 10 onenesses. All right. These are two categories of 10. There are two categories of 10 mystic principles. The 10 mystic principles of the theoretical first half of the Lotus Sutra and the 10 mystic principles of the essential teaching, latter half of the sutra. In the description below, the word mystic is the translation of myo. The 10 mystic principles of the theoretical teaching are based on the concepts of the true aspect of all phenomena and the replacement of the three vehicles with the one vehicle. And we already know what that is, right? Voice, hears, cause, awaken one's bodhisattvas are really just aspects of Buddhahood. They are the mystic principle of reality, meaning that the objective reality observed and illuminated by wisdom is mystic. You can understand why that transformation occurs within your life. Okay? The mystic principle of wisdom, that the wisdom with which one understands this reality is mystic. You can't understand what's going on in your brain that flipped and everything's different now. How you think about and how you perceive and conceive of everything changes. Why? I don't know why. It just did. 3, the mystic principle of practice. That practice based on mystic wisdom is mystic. Why you and not somebody else? Why do you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo and believe and have faith in the Gohonzon and the Daimoku of Nichiren? Okay? That's mystic. Okay? It's something that's karmic. It comes from some time before we were born. That's why it's all mystic. There's no way to define what it is. It's just that's the way it is.
Yeah.
All right? 4, the mystic principle of stages, which are attained through practice, that the stages leading to enlightenment are mystic. Although they're simultaneous, they're still elements of change of thought process, correct?
Yeah.
They're manifestations of a different level of thinking. All right? Why? They're mystic. Okay? They're from the region of the unfathomable. They're from non-substantiality. That's where all this stuff comes out. When you reemerge, your karma for this lifetime is already fully formed. All right? That's why we're living the karma of our previous life, and the karma of this lifetime will be reflected in our next life. You understand that, right? Okay. 5. The mystic principle of the 3 elements, the objective reality or truth, the subjective wisdom, and the behavior arising from the fusion of these 2 are mystic. What is that? I'll say it again. The mystic principle of the 3 elements. What are the 3 elements? The objective reality or truth, the subjective wisdom, and the behavior arising from the fusion of these 2 are mystic. So it's the subjective wisdom and then the fusion. What is that? That's Kyochi Myogo. That's a fusion of subjective wisdom and reality, right? Reality and wisdom. What would that be? We used to call it fusing with the Gohonzon. If you fuse with the Gohonzon, what has occurred? You've attained Buddhahood in your present form.
Yes.
Okay, now when you go to the Gohonzon, you no longer go to the Gohonzon with the same perception of the Gohonzon as you have before. Okay, that's why people were striving to perceive and create this fusion of Kyochi Myogo. That used to be the go-to before we got the OTT and got to hear the way Nichiren describes it back in the day. That's what I would chant for constantly, trying to fuse with the Gohonzon, not realizing I already had. Long before that, I realized that I had. All right? So, pardon me. 6, the mystic principle of responsive communion, meaning that the Buddha appearing in order to respond to the people's desire to seek him is mystic. Okay? Why did we find out about Nichiren and the world's filled with other people that have not? Why did we find out about Nichiren and believe it and embrace it and start to manifest it? And other people have even met it, but they didn't manifest it. They didn't embrace it. Okay? Why us? It's mystic. Okay? 7, the mystic principle of transcendental power. Okay, think about what I wrote to you in Honim Yosho. Go back and read it now after I've said all the stuff I've said today. Read it again and see if it doesn't mean something entirely different than it did when you read it, when I just gave it to you to read. Okay? Seriously. Do that as a favor to me. Will you all promise to do that?
Yeah.
You all know where to find it, right? It's all on our
Group.
Yeah.
group.
Line,
Okay? There should be no issue. If you want, text me and I will send it to you personally. All right? And by the way, for anybody that's watching on camera, I put it in the comments section of the last video, and there's just enough separation between the title and the beginning of the first paragraph that none of the text appears. So it looks like there's nothing there. So only the people that should read it would have rolled up to find it. Okay? So if you're one of the people that are now watching this video and you want to take that challenge that I just challenged the people at the table to do, go back to the last video and just scroll up from the first comment and you'll see suddenly a 10 paragraph. Wow. That's what we read last time. You'll have to think about it. It won't be something that you'll understand the first time you read it. Okay, the mystic principle of transcendental power and the supernatural powers the Buddha uses to reveal the truth are mystic. Okay, our manifest supernatural powers that we call benefit are mystic. This mystic principle of preaching, that the Buddha is preaching what is verbally inexpressible, is mystic. What I'm saying that makes you go, oh, now I get it. That didn't come from me. That came from you. That came from you listening to me. That's called seeking. I'm not responsible for that. You are. And I didn't say it. The mystic law manifested me having the capacity to be able to say it. That's what tied all of the rest of this together. If you go through and you'll read this again, you'll see that all of this stuff is connected. It's all simultaneous. None of the 10 mystic principles exist outside of the 10 mystic principles. There's not 9, only 9. They're all there all the time. They're all there all the time. Okay, so 9, the mystic principle of relationship, that all people are related, that all people are related to the Buddha is mystic. The qualification that everybody has the Buddha nature even though they don't chant or find the Gohonzon. And 10, the mystic principle of merit and benefit, the principle that people who receive the seeds of Buddhahood, major world system, dust particle kalpas, finally attain truth through the process of maturing is mystic. The 10 mystic principles of the essential teaching are based on the revelation of the Buddha's original enlightenment, countless kalpas in the past, expounded in the lifespan chapter. The 10 mystic principles of the theoretical teaching are preparatory, and the 10 mystic principles of the essential teaching, because the Buddha who revealed his original enlightenment in the remote past is called the true Buddha. Each of the 10 of the mystic principles of the essential teaching are modified by the word true. That is the meaning that I actually just expressed to you each time. I didn't give you any of the theoretical mystic principles. I gave you so I could go through and all it's going to say is true in front of what I just explicated to you. I'll read it quickly. True, they are the mystic principles. True cause, meaning that the practice of the true Buddha are mystic. True effect, that the merits and virtues attained by the true Buddha are mystic. We're all true Buddhas, by the way. True land, that the land where the true Buddha dwells is mystic. That's talking about us each time. True responsive communion, that the true Buddha appearing in response to the people's desire to seek him is mystic. True transcendental power, that the supernatural powers of the true Buddha that the true Buddha displays when he preaches are mystic. 6, true preaching, that the true Buddha's preaching in the remote past is mystic. 7, true relationship, that the people who formed connections to the true Buddha in the remote past are mystic. We've all created connections between ourselves in previous lifetimes, or we would not all be sitting at this table talking about this. True nirvana, that the true Buddha's nirvana is not an expedient means, but external and inherent, and therefore mystic. 9, the true lifespan, meaning that though the true Buddha's lifespan is eternal, his repeatedly being reborn as an ordinary mortal with a lifespan he desires is mystic. And 10, the true benefit the true Buddha bestows upon the people in the land of eternally tranquil light is mystic. And with that, I nailed it at an hour and a half. I'm finished until I finish the rest of these when I see you next time. In between when I see you next time. Next time, we will just read this Gosho.
Okay.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.